The SRL on the NFL. Previews, predictions, and analysis covering every storyline in football every week. The SRL on the NFL. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to SRL on the NFL. This is week 12 of the NFL season coming up this week. My name is Brendan Yerkes. I'm joined with Alex Vachapante, as always. Alex, how we doing?
We are excited. I already clipped 100 wins last week, so shout out myself.
There you go.
It's going to be a crazy finish, though. We still got a lot more games to go, but I'm hyped.
Yeah, Alex last week went 11-3. I think that's the best record anybody's had in a single week all season. I had a solid week, 9-5, not bad, but now I've fallen behind after we were pretty much tied for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, going back and forth. But Alex gets to 166 overall. I'm at 98 and 68, so still a long ways to go. We're gonna see. Maybe we might have to put a little bet on it these last few weeks. Have something fun at the end, but when we get there, we'll figure it out. But we're gonna make our picks for week 12. But first, we're gonna go through week 11's games and review those ones pretty quickly. Starting out Thursday night, it was the Commanders and the Eagles, and I think we're starting to see the Eagles team that we all expected. 26-18, they get the win over the Commanders. I think they're just more experienced. They were at home. They do what they do, especially in these primetime games. I feel like they usually look the part, and they've really just gelled well, and I think they're turning into one of the best teams in the NFC once again.
I think at this point, like, if it wasn't kind of obvious that Saquon's just playing like the best back in the league right now.
Right.
And I don't think that's really much of a debate. And yeah, this team is really starting to hit their stride. I mean, they're 8-2 now, so they've now overtaken, obviously, the lead in the NFC East. So they're probably going to run with the division at this point because they have more experience than Washington, but who knows? But yeah.
Washington definitely is inexperienced. You're starting to see them level off a little bit. I still think they're going to get into the playoffs as a wild card, but
Definitely.
yeah, Philly is just a different beast. They've been there, done that before. And like you said, Saquon, he's finding his game. The wide receivers are playing well. The defense has picked up, especially those young corners have figured it out. And Washington's offense has kind of hit a stalemate right now. But again, I think they'll be okay long term. But yeah, right now the Eagles, which is good from what you saw from them last year where they started out really hot, then fell off a cliff. I think they started out not bad, but they were kind of like finding themselves. They were okay. And now I think they're hitting their stride right at the right part of the season. They're going to take this to the end, win that division, and then go into the playoffs firing, unlike they have the last 2 years. Moving on, Bears and the Packers. Another blocked field goal at the end of a game. This time, Green Bay stuns the Bears in the final seconds. They block it. They win 20-19. Absolutely unreal. The Bears went from 4-2. They are now 4-6, 4 straight losses, and especially to a division rival, it's brutal.
It's tough, but again, we all knew that the Packers are obviously the better team here. But I felt like the Bears were gonna win this one. It just felt like every snap that I was watching, I was like, you know what? I think the Bears are gonna pull this one out. And it really comes down to a block field goal. Like you can't make that up. Like you really cannot make that up.
Jets and Bears, two most cursed franchises,
Most
two of the
definitely.
biggest cities, but yeah, they just can't get anything right. Lions beat up on the Jags 52-6. I feel like the Lions every other week have a massive offensive showing. Good bounce back for Jared Goff, 4 touchdowns, 412 passing yards, 82% completion percentage, and that's also with no picks after throwing 5 a week ago. So good bounce back there. Not really shocking. The Jags are bad, and the Lions, as we've talked about, one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL to this point. The Dolphins beat the Raiders 34-19. I don't think really anything interesting about that game. Dolphins kind of finding their stride again offensively, as we thought, but the Raiders had a couple moments. Brock Bowers scored a touchdown, so that was pretty nice to see. 126 receiving yards for him as well. Rams over the Patriots 28-22. It's pretty close. Drake May's been solid, I think. I think he's looked pretty good so far in the beginning of his career. I don't know if you'd agree. I mean, because they're not really winning games. They have 3, I think, at this point. But May has been solid with especially not a lot of talent there. So something optimistic for the Patriot fans. Not like they deserve it, but,
I do think though that Drake May is like very solid. They just need weapons. They really
there's nobody there.
There's no wides. There's I mean Stevenson is okay
He's
as
okay.
a running back, but he's nothing insane. They really need some offensive playmakers to really allow Drake May to be unlocked. But I do think he has a lot of promising qualities, though, definitely as a starting quarterback.
282 yards, 2 touchdowns, 74% completion percentage, along with 1 pick in this game. Saints beat the Browns, 2 bad teams. You had the Saints. They end up clobbering the Browns, actually, 35-14. So I don't know why I keep believing in the Browns. I still believe that team is, the roster's better than they're playing, but we've been through 11 weeks now, so we can't really say that they're going to be better.
Right.
The biggest shock of the week again, our nemesis, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 18-16. They stunned the Baltimore Ravens. They were the home team here, but that defense just shuts it down. They made the stops. No touchdowns in this game, only field goals for them, and they still win. It's the second time that's happened this year. It also happened week 1 against Atlanta. I don't know how they do it, but just finding a way again, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They play the ugliest form of football, and yet they always win. The thing I want to highlight here, though, is just how brutal Justin Tucker has been for the Ravens. He's, I think, from what I understand, statistically right now, the 3rd worst kicker in the NFL in terms of completion percentage or makes, which that's pretty brutal for them. Because usually he's money, and this game he wasn't doing too great either. So he's 1 of 3 from field goals. So, and for a 2-point game, though, that's the difference. And you could easily win a game, and you don't.
And they had to go for 2 at the end because they had missed points on the board. Like at that point you're down by 2 instead of being down by 1 or having a lead, maybe even if those go in. So it changes everything. And I feel like he's still making the long, like flashy kicks that everybody knows him for, but he used to just be automatic. His percentage was crazy. But this year, he's just not been the same. I don't know if he's getting up there in age or if something's just changing, but I don't know. You can't rely on him as one of the best kickers in the league. But I think based on name alone, they still think that he's going to be able to go out there and make those kicks. But we'll see if anything changes. But I think that's what it is. Like Justin Tucker, he's one of the best kickers in the NFL. He has been for a while, and now it's, takes a lot to reverse that. But there's going to come a point where that's going to cost them. Now it's a division race because the Steelers got this win here. I believe the Ravens are still in first, or is it the Steelers?
No, the Steelers are in first, 8-2.
All right, yeah, and the Ravens are what, 7-3?
7-4.
Yeah, so that's crazy. They have the extra game in hand too, along with the win. So Steelers running away with it. Wow. Minnesota beat Tennessee 23-13. Darnold, another pretty good game, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, so a nice bounce back for him. The Colts and the Jets, 28-27. The Colts win. The Jets just find new ways to drive me crazy. I said I wasn't going to rant about it anymore. I'll keep this one quick. It's crazy because, I don't think they're going to win, and there's no reason to. And if they win, it doesn't really matter. But it's just like, it'll make you feel good, right? Your team wins a football game. And then they're winning. They look putrid in the first half. They start the second half, 2 Brees Hall touchdowns. You're like, wow, this is great. And then, they're winning. Kenny Yeboah scores his first touchdown. You're like, oh, you have a nice little lead here. Maybe we'll make something happen. And then they have constant chances to close it out. They throw a pass when there's 30 minutes left. You could have killed 40 more seconds off. Pointless. And then they put a field goal on the board, but still they allow the Colts to have the opportunity to come back into it. First play, they chuck it like 40 yards down the field. And then they had like a minute and a half to work with. They score. Then Rodgers gets sacked twice. Like you literally just like bring the hope in for that you're going to win a game just to like say, you know what? No, we're just going to blow it in the last minute. It's just, they find new ways. This team's a joke. And it just annoys me how the broadcast, like, oh, their chance of making the playoffs is a slim. It's only 3% now. They're 3-8. What other 3-8 team gets talked about that they still have a 3% chance to make the playoffs? They think just because the talent that they came in with, it's over. Can we stop it? They're still pushing this narrative like, oh, the Jets' playoff hopes are really, really narrow now. Can we just call it over?
Here's what I have to say about the Jets.
You're not talking about the Browns making a push for the playoffs at 3-8.
No, because no one's making the playoffs at 3-8.
Then why do they say that about the Jets? Because they think the talent and Rodgers, like they just want to make it like a thing. Like it was like a guarantee that we were going to make it. I thought they were going to make it because they're a talented team, but we all threw that out the window 3 weeks ago.
On the surface, they're a talented team, but they don't play like it. And
they don't tackle. They don't do the little things.
That's the problem. That's been the problem with them all year. And we keep saying it. We sound like a broken record pretty much because we say it every single week. we're like, why can't the Jets win? Like you say,
It's
they
just
can't do the little
fascinating to
things
watch
and
every week.
lack of identity, and just they can't do it.
Yep.
They just can't win.
And firing Saleh maybe is the right idea in hindsight, but now Jeff Ulbrich, fantastic defensive coordinator. He's in over his head because they didn't replace the defensive coordinator. He's doing that
Right.
with head coaching duties. He's got too much on his plate, so he's going to be gone. They announced this week they fired Joe Douglas, so
Yep.
he's gone. He made a lot of good moves. He built the core of this team. He made that great draft with Sauce and Garrett Wilson. He brought in AVT, made a lot of good signings. He's done a lot of good work, but still a lot of bad work. The two biggest things that he didn't do right, the coach and the quarterback. He drafted Zach Wilson second overall. He didn't sign a backup last year for when Rodgers got hurt, so then they had no backup plan, and they probably would have made the playoffs last year with that defense with like a Tyrod Taylor like they signed this year. But they didn't have it last year. So those mishaps and some of his other bad signings and draft picks that he's made ended up costing him. I mean, look, I thought he did a good job for the most part, but then again, he was 30-64 as the general manager, so that's just not going to cut it. He's had 6 years. It's time to start over. New coach, new GM, and probably new quarterback next year. I think Rodgers is gone too.
Yeah, I think you just got to start fresh, and that's not me saying though that I think Joe Douglas is a bad GM, because I think, like you said, I think he's made very solid moves in his tenure, but there's only so much you could do as GM. You bring in the talent, but the talent has to perform, and the talent just hasn't performed.
And also with Saleh, like he never had you don't know, he never had like the good quarterback. Like that was a downfall. Like literally, I just said it, but last year they went 7-10, and that defense was falling. And and even the year before when they had Wilson and Strevler, like that was the downfall. Like when Mike White came in, and Mike White could have probably led them to the playoffs, but he got hurt, so they couldn't play him.
Right.
But that was their downfall. They didn't sign a backup last year then, and they had Tim Boyle in, and it was just a disaster. Like if they had Tyrod Taylor last year, I guarantee you they would have made the playoffs. I'm not saying they would have done anything, but they would have like won the close games that they couldn't close out, like against the bad teams. So that's frustrating, but we'll see what happens. I think Rodgers is definitely gone just because they're going to want to start fresh. He'll probably end up going to Minnesota, but the job I would say is not desirable because who would want to go to the Jets and ruin their career because it's dysfunctional? But somebody's going to want to be the team to save them. But there's still some talent on the team to work with. It's not like it's just a bare bones, horrible roster. So that's the only, I think, redeeming quality for that. But yeah, there's another Jets rant, unnecessary. Broncos beat the Falcons 38-6 beat down. Didn't see that coming. Another one of those bad offensive games for the Falcons. You were on this one. The Broncos have been good this year. Bo Nix a really good game. They've really surprised me how well they've played. But yeah, Falcons are a strange team to this year. Very bipolar.
Yeah, they're hot and cold every other week. Some weeks you're like, wow, this is one of the better offenses in the NFL, and then other weeks like this, you're just like, ooh, that's brutal to see. But I think this is more of a testament to the Broncos and just how solid they've been, especially defensively this year. They're third in points per game, where they only let up 16.6 points, which is pretty insane to say the least.
Yeah. Moving on, the 49ers lose again. They choke at the end. Seattle beats them, and I still think Seattle's mid, but are the 49ers mid? I mean, they're another one of those teams, so much talent, and like we're waiting for them to figure it out, but it's starting to get late here. They might sneak in as a wild card, but who really knows?
It's so crazy though, this entire NFC West. Like Cardinals are 6-4, and then everyone else is 5-5. It is going to be a bloodbath to see who actually gets that division. So yeah, these next coming weeks are going to be insane.
And I'm still thinking it's the 49ers, just as bad as they've looked.
And it could be, which is crazy to say, even though they've been really just average to say the least. But they could easily take the division because it's only one game, which is so crazy to say.
This one we were on. The Bills beat the Chiefs. We both saw that coming.
Crazy.
And I don't really think it's that big of a deal for the Chiefs. Like you lose a game to a good team, like it's not the end of the world. You're 9-1. Like, and there were some things they probably would have wanted to do better. I think Mahomes was still pretty good. Like the run game wasn't great. And the Bills just like they were at home. You just felt it coming. And I think you need a loss sometimes to get it right. Like going undefeated would be fun, but it's not a regular scenario. And like the Bills just had them this game. And I think the Chiefs are going to take this and bounce back. They're going to be fine. They get a good game against the Panthers next week, so they can bounce back with that. But this was a good football game.
I already know the script, so you could. I'll tell you what's gonna happen.
They're going to lose in the divisional, the Bills, to the Chiefs.
I was gonna be more kind. I was gonna say they'd mean the conference championship because they're probably gonna be the 1 and 2 seeds, give or take. But
right.
so yeah, I was gonna say, well, yeah, the Bills and Chiefs will meet again in the playoffs, and the Chiefs will take care of them, and that shouldn't shock anyone. That's what's gonna happen. The Chiefs do it to them every single year.
Because you can't beat a team twice in a season, and they usually always meet in the playoffs. So,
and you already know.
And then the Chiefs are going to come back with adjustments. They're going to get the game at home, so that's how it's going to be. But but what's probably going to end up happening is it's going to be the Steelers beating one of them in the playoffs at this point.
It does.
Just because why not? That's how it works.
Yeah.
Sunday Night Football, Chargers, Bengals. The Chargers won. The Bengals aren't so great. I don't know if you got anything on this game.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's just crazy to say is the Chargers are 7-3 right now. Like, that is.
And I feel like I've heard nothing about them all year.
Again, it's been that defense. Like, their offense has been kind of but they're first in points per game allowed for defense, and which is insane. They only let up 15 points per game. So
it's crazy.
If
I feel like it's like by committee too. Like it's like there's no names.
There's no big names, and they're only putting up 22 points themselves, but that's enough when you're only letting up 15 points. So that's going to be enough to thread the needle. And Herbert kind of balled out. He had 297 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, which is nice to see because not that he's having a terrible year because they're still winning, but I mean, wow, 13 touchdowns to 1 pick. Never mind. That's very good. But in terms of like total passing yards and yards per game, he's kind of looking mediocre. But it's been that run game too, led by J.K. Dobbins, who I think should probably win Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah, definitely. He trained with Rodgers, the same surgery, but he's having actually a good year. But the Bengals, it's just Burrow's put the team in his back in this game. 356 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. There's so much he could do. I think they're going to get this offseason. At this point, they're not making the playoffs. I think they're going to get this offseason, make a good draft pick in the first round, make some signings, get their team a little bit more depth, a little more secure going into next year. But it's, sometimes it just happens that way. And Monday Night Football, the Texans spanked the Cowboys 34-10. Not much to say there. The Cowboys have Cooper Rush. They're not a very good team this year. They're going to need another offseason like the Bengals to kind of recoup things, and I think they could maybe be better again next year. But we'll see. The Texans have been playing well. They win this Battle of Texas, a good one for them. Let's move on to picks for Week 12. Before we do that, make sure to check us out on social media. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at SRL.media for more stuff surrounding the show and other content. Moving on to Week 12. Thursday Night Football, it's our favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're visiting the Cleveland Browns. And this week, I think we both have the Steelers. We have to. The Browns are terrible. The Steelers are playing well. We got to give them the win. So they'll probably lose, but we think the Steelers are going to win, right?
Yeah, so I'm picking the Steelers here as well. So everyone could put all their money on the Browns because that's been our luck this year with the Steelers. So yeah, everyone go place your bets on the Browns. But yeah, we're both going to pick the Steelers here for obvious reasons. Their defense has been insane, and the Browns have just been horrible. Obviously, no Deshaun, who wasn't even good anyway, but is like a name.
Set the franchise back.
They have no one. They have no one at the end.
Yeah, it's a disaster there. Minnesota and Chicago. This one's in Chicago again, another divisional opponent for them at home. But I'm taking Minnesota. The Bears are reeling right now. Offense is struggling. Minnesota's offense back on track. Defense playing well. I'm going to take the Vikings on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to be going to Vikings here as well. I just think that they're obviously the much better team at this point. And the Bears are just kind of, like you're saying, they're stumbling right now. And they don't look like how they were the first 6 weeks. And I hope it's not the constant trend. I hope that they could kind of bring it back and maybe get to 7 to 10 wins or 7 to 8, 9 wins, something like that.
Yeah, good building block
in the right direction for them.
Right.
But I'm taking the Vikings right now. Definitely.
Yeah, I think they probably get rid of Eberflus regardless after this year. Move forward. Next game, Detroit and Indianapolis. Now, Anthony Richardson did look good in coming back to the lineup as a starting quarterback, but he's playing the Jets. They're very soft defensively. A lot of completions there, but I'd have to go with the Lions. They've spanked everybody. I think they're now in place with the Chiefs, and I'm not going to be able to pick against them until they give me a reason to. That game they played a few weeks ago against Green Bay really sold it to me, and now I think that they're just going to keep rolling through everybody until I have a reason to not pick them. I'm going with the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions here as well. I just think that you can't not pick them at this point. They've just been dominant, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball. And while the Colts are okay-ish defensively, they're not insane by any stretch. They're not going to be able to stop this offense. And yeah, I'm taking the Lions.
Patriots, Dolphins. This one's in Miami. I'm going to go with the Dolphins. Their offenses look better, and I just think they're a better team. Like when they were healthy, they were expected to actually maybe do something this year. Now I don't think they are, but still the talent. So give me Miami.
Yeah, I'm taking Miami here as well. I just think that they're obviously the more talented football team. But to counter that point, I mean, if they win this game, they're 5-6. That's in the hunt. You're right back in it.
Yeah,
with
especially
this
in the AFC this year.
Whatever AFC, like they could easily get right back in it. You're 5-6 at that point, and anything could really go down. So yeah,
they're in the situation that the media is trying to put the Jets in, that they had a bad start
correct.
and they can crawl back into it. But
Yeah.
there's actually hope there. This game, Tampa Bay and the Giants. This one's an interesting one. I think it's pretty close, actually. Daniel Jones gets benched and now playing safety in practice for some reason.
Yep.
Tommy Cutlets goes in. I think it should have been Drew Lock. I don't understand why Drew Lock's good enough to be the backup but not the replacement. But whatever, to each their own. And Tampa Bay has been playing okay. I think they've been hurt by a lot of injuries, especially the wide receivers. Baker Mayfield's kind of been trying to improvise and figure it out himself. So I'm going to go with the Bucs here. I think he's been playing well, and I think they deserve a win for how they've been playing. They've just been, some tough matchups. The injuries have been tough, especially on offense. But the Giants, I think, are going to keep it close. And it wouldn't shock me if they end up winning this game just because new quarterback and, all the hype around him. It's a home game for them, so that could be something. But I'm going to roll with the Bucs on the road here.
I'm most certainly going with the Bucs. I do not feel confident going into this game at all. I think, honestly, I think at this point, we know what Drew Lock is, so they could really care less about playing him, and that's probably what ended up happening. I mean, this guy can at least put people into the stands.
We love the Italians.
Love the Italians. Make things a little bit more interesting. I still hope that they lose every single game for the rest of the season. I do want a quarterback in this draft. I don't want Tommy to start winning games like he did for us last year.
It happened last year.
A concern.
Yeah, you love the Italians, but you don't want them to win a game for the rest of the year.
I want them to look good, but for them not to win a game. I want it to look interesting.
You could be the backup for whoever they draft next year.
I'm down for that. Let's do that. But
the Giants defense, especially the line, usually is a random good game every couple of weeks, so it could be that one on a ravaged
they're
Bucs
first
team.
in sacks.
Yeah, no, they've been getting to the quarterback, so I think that this is a matchup that would be favorable to them.
It could be, but I hope it's not the case. I just hope that they lose. I don't even know if that's me being a homer, but I do think though that the Bucs are obviously more talented. So yeah, I'm going to be taking.
I think I'm with you with that. Yeah, for my team losing. I mean, thank God there's no Jet game this week. Like I don't have to endure it. You guys don't have to hear about the Jets next week. I hope you're all happy.
You go.
Get a nice bye week. Set up our Thanksgiving week.
Can't lose on a bye week.
We cannot lose on a bye week, and they somehow will. All right, Dallas and Washington. Washington's at home. Give me the Commanders. Cowboys just stink right now.
Yeah, the Cowboys are garbage right now. So
good bounce back for Washington.
Yeah, nice little bounce back game for them because they've been slipping up a bit. But I think this is a nice and easy win for them. They'll take care of Dallas.
They always rise up for Dallas.
Yeah.
All right, Kansas City, Carolina. Give me the Chiefs. This is the biggest lock I think ever on the show. They lost to the Bills. Carolina's terrible. They need a win now just to get back on track. There's no way the Chiefs lose this game. I guarantee it.
There's now, because you said all this, and I'm picking the Chiefs as well, they're going to lose probably, just because.
That would just be funny at that point.
It would be. But,
we're still going to make the playoffs, but we lost another game.
I mean, yeah, they're perfectly fine. I don't think they have to worry. It's about seeding for them at that point and, like, first or second seed pretty much. But, I'm going to be taking the Chiefs here as well. I just think, obviously, they're much better, and they don't really have a reason to be picked against here. It was actually funny, though, like, when they were, like, 8-0 and, like, 9-0, there was, like, jokes going around like, oh well, the Panthers are gonna end that. Like they're gonna end
Yeah,
the streak.
that would be funny.
But streak already ended, so you don't have to worry about that. So now
The Panthers are pissed. They had their chance, and now they don't.
the Chiefs are gonna take care of business. They're gonna be 10-1.
Absolutely, it's gonna be Kareem Hunt running all over the place in this game.
I don't doubt it.
All right, Tennessee and Houston, similar situation. Give me the Texans. Tennessee's terrible.
Yeah. That's nice to hear you say that Tennessee is terrible.
We're far enough into the season now that we know like we're done. It's like how much analysis do you want on that? The Texans stomped the Cowboys last week. They're playing another bad team, division rival. They're at home. Like it's week 12. Like it's just here we go.
I do think though that the Texans have been kind of not playing their best football as of late. I mean, it's good that they beat up on Dallas because that was a clear bounce back that they needed. But this is also just a gimme game. They have to get this one as well.
It doesn't help them that they're in the worst division in football. Like they
True.
literally get these like their whole schedule is just easy games, so you don't really know what to see from them. Like they're probably playing down to their competition.
Probably. But this is an easy game. They've
taken care of business for the most part. Yeah, this is a Division 1. They're at home, so
yeah.
Good for them. Denver and Las Vegas. Broncos won big. I feel like I've been hesitant to pick the Broncos a lot this year, and I've picked the Raiders a weird amount. But I'm rolling with Denver on the road here. They're hot. I'm gonna think that keeps rolling.
Let's ride. I'm taking the Broncos here as well.
They're riding this year without him.
I know they're riding well without Russ. They don't need him. But yeah, they're 6-5. I mean, I think that, like I've been saying though throughout the past few weeks, I think we have to respect them as just a solid team. And the Raiders obviously are not a solid team by any stretch. They're 2-8. So yeah, give me the Raiders here. I mean, no, give me the Broncos.
The Broncos.
Yeah.
The Broncos. I don't know if they make the playoffs. They're in contention definitely to sneak in. It's one of those wild cards. I don't know if they get it or not, but that's good trend in the right direction for them. This one we might have our first disagreements. We'll see. 49ers at Packers. Now this was probably the toughest game of the week to. No, this is not the toughest game, but one of the tougher ones of the week to choose. I'm going to go with Green Bay. They're at home. They got the big win over the division rival last week. And I think a lot of their games have been close where you're like, oh, like they lost a close game or they win a close game. And it's kind of like a wonky way to finish. Like I feel like they've had a lot of those games and the offense has been really on and off. Some games Jordan Love looks amazing. Some games they just look average. But the 49ers offense hasn't really done much either. It's going to be another one of those low scoring games, I think. But I think Green Bay is going to squeak it out. I just think they've been consistently better the last few weeks. And I'm just feeling it.
And I'm just feeling the opposite direction. I'm gonna be going with the Niners here.
There's our difference.
I just think that there's just too much talent on this Niners team at this point. Like they got to show me something, and if they can't show me something with a statement win against Green Bay, then I'm questioning if they could even make the playoffs. Like,
and they usually play the Packers well. I mean, there's no Rodgers anymore, but they usually play the Packers well.
But they have to get this one. This is an absolute.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think with all that on the line, they're going to be fired up. So I'm going to be taking the Niners.
You could also say that for Green Bay too. I mean, they have a better record, but that division has 3 good teams in it. Like you need to it's not a guarantee that you make it even with your record because the top 2 are going to make it for sure. And then there's other teams, but I mean, they're in a good spot right now, but it's close.
It's a tough one. Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like the Niners have more to play for at this point only because they're at 500 right now. So if they lose this one, now they're under 500 this late in the
Very
season.
True.
That's bad news. So I'm going to be taking the Niners.
Yep. Keeping it with the that division there with the Niners, Arizona and Seattle. Seattle beat the Niners last week, but I'm rolling with Arizona. I've loved what I've seen from them. Offense is good. Now, the Seattle offense did what it had to last week, but I think just the Cardinal offense is just so explosive. And now even with their bad defense, like the Seahawks offense doesn't scare me at this point. So Arizona going to go on the road, go into Seattle, and I think come out with a big win and keep their division lead at this point.
I think this is where the division starts to get really weird. I'm going to be going with Seattle here. I think basically everyone's going to be tied up again, and they're all going to be around 6-5 or something. But yeah, I just think that Seattle being at home for me, I think is the biggest factor. If the Cardinals were home, I probably would have picked them. But they've well, one team is like well above expectations of the Cardinals, and the Seahawks are kind of at or like a little bit below expectations. But I do feel like they're going to play up to this division game. Plus, they're at home, so I'm going to be going with Seattle.
Eagles and Rams, so another team in that NFC West. But we talked so highly about the Eagles before. I think they're going to keep it rolling on the road in LA. LA's one of those 500 teams, dealt with a lot of injuries this year. I think they're going to end the year around 500 in that 8 or 9, 9 and 8 range. I think that's just where their talent level is. And with the Eagles playing so well, I think I have to keep rolling with the Birds.
I got to keep rolling with the Birds too. I just feel like, yeah, at this point, like, uh, that they've started to look like one of the best teams in the NFC. And while the Rams have looked pretty solid as of late, I just feel like this Philly team is just way too talented for them.
Absolutely. And last game of the week, Monday Night Football. Now, this one I actually think was the hardest game to pick of the week. I don't know if you agree or not. That other one was tough, but
Kind of.
this one, Ravens, Chargers. And I was looking at the Chargers win last week. I'm like, oh, they've been playing really well. I feel like they've been flying under the radar. I haven't picked them enough. But then I'm like, and because Baltimore lost, to the Steelers, which is tough. But I just think every time Lamar this year has been hit with adversity, they've bounced back the next week and had a really good game. So I'm going to bank on that again. It's a road game for the Ravens. So, but I'm feeling like Lamar is going to have another one of those really big games. They lose to the Steelers. The offense isn't clicking. I think they're going to get it right this week. They have a lot of weapons on that offense, and they're going to go out and just have a really good offensive showing and come up with that road win, get their season, I guess, that division race back on track. They're out of it. They're by the game and a half, like we said, but keep pace and give themselves a shot by the end. I don't think they're just going to roll over and let the Steelers take it. So give me the Ravens here on the road on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I'm going with the Ravens here as well on Monday night. I obviously have been very impressed with what the Chargers have done this year, but the power of friendship only goes so far. Like I do think though that they've been a great story and still have looked very good. They're probably going to make the playoffs at this point, but I just think that Baltimore is just way too talented, and I'm going to be going with Baltimore. They obviously have faced some adversity as of late, so I feel like they're going to step up here and take a big game.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. So only two differences for this week, the Seattle game and the Green Bay San Francisco game. So we'll definitely look out for that. Check out our social medias for more content surrounding the show at srl.media on Instagram and TikTok. You could find this podcast, SRL on the NFL, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube for the video version. Again, my name is Brendan Yerkes, joined alongside Alex Fatchaponte. This is going to do it for week number 12 of SRL on the NFL. Thank you so much for tuning in.